Welcome back to DSR. We're going back to Crooked Moon. We're going to do the fighter subclass called the Barrow Guard. Command the might of the grave. Barrow Guards are warriors who harness the power of the dead, taking upon themselves spectral energies normally forbidden to the living. Some Barrow Guards are those returned from the dead through magical miracles or the whims of the gods. Others stand at the doors of sacred crypts, ready to push back any who attempt to desecrate the dead. No matter their origin, these stoic sentinels are unconcerned with matters of the living. They are separate, other, and duty bound to their role as crypt keepers, ensuring the dead, heroes, and villains alike remain at rest. I think it's a cool idea, cool theme, and I think it's cool to add this kind of functionality to this like necromantic concept to a fighter subclass, and not like your typical half cast or paladin would have been a very likely choice of this one. So I like seeing this on a fighter base class. Let's see what the features are. So level 3, Death Knight. You house within yourself the lingering remnants of souls long departed, and their knowledge and experience imbue you with necromantic energy. It is represented by Draugr dice. Okay, I had to look this one up. Draugr is a Norse term meaning undead, ghost, or revenant. So you could just mentally replace the word Draugr with revenant, which might have been easier for like Western English speakers. But if they hadn't used the word Draugr, I wouldn't have looked it up and I wouldn't have learned something new today. So I guess it's okay. Which fuel powers you have from the subclass? The Barrow Guard Draugr dice table shows the die size and number of these dice you have when you reach certain fighter levels. And this table is exactly the same as the Psy Warrior and the Soul Knife table. So exact same dice size, exact same number at the exact same levels. So just remember that these are basically the same thing as the Psionic Energy dice from the Psy Warrior. They're just called Draugr dice. You regain one and finish a short rest. Same as the Psy Warriors Psionic Energy dice. The DC is based on your constitution, which is different. The Psy Warriors DC is based on their intelligence. So this is going to actually be, just that alone is going to make this slightly more powerful than the Psy Warrior. Then you start with 3 different powers you can use with these Draugr dice. The first one is Dark Rider. As a bonus action, you manifest a ghostly steed that only you can mount. The steed uses the Warhorse stat block, but its creature type is undead. It has resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, and it can only take the dash, disengage, and dodge actions. When the steed takes the dash action, you can expend and roll a Draugr die. During the movement from that action, the steed's speed increases by a number equal to 5 times the number rolled. The steed vanishes after 1 hour if it is reduced to 0 hit points, or if you have the incapacitated condition, or if you die. Once you take this bonus action, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest, unless you expend a Draugr die, no action required to restore your use of it. So this one is our we get 1 free use of this per day. Per short or long rest, so it's not per day. So unless this thing dies, you don't even need to use it again, and it lasts indefinitely. Lasts 1 hour. Yes, sorry, it lasts 1 hour. So a lot of the time, you won't need to spend a Draugr die at all for this thing. The problem is it's a Warhorse stat block, which has not very many hit points and not a great AC. So if you don't, and it would be hard to do things like you can't buff this thing up very well because it only lasts 1 hour. So you could normally I'd say you would get barding to increase its AC. You would get the Saddle of the Cavalier to put on it so that all attack rolls against it have disadvantage. You would cast spells on it to buff it, but it only lasts an hour. So every spell you cast on it is going to go away after an hour anyway. Like Aid would be a common spell you'd want to put on this thing. And the fact that it's a Warhorse stat block makes this thing pretty weak. So there's a good chance that it's going to die. And this thing doesn't upgrade. Its hit points and AC do not upgrade at all throughout the entire life of this career of this fighter subclass. So even at level 20, this thing is not any tougher. Not really. It gets a few things that help, but this thing is going to get wrecked all the time. And that's kind of the problem with this whole subclass. This whole subclass is great except for that, because this thing is going to die so frequently and so many of your features are tied to it that you're going to start, about a third of your features are tied to it. But you're going to reach a point where you're just not even going to use it anymore, or you'll use it to like run you into combat and then jump off and have it run away, just so that it's not getting wrecked all the time. Because if it gets killed, then you fall off it, right? And you got to make a dexterity saving throw, or you land prone. Then you got to spend, if you land prone, spend part of your movement standing back up. So yeah, that's a problem. They should have used like the Find Steed stat block. I think it would just been better if they said you cast Find Steed, and they would have wanted to limit that to level 5 instead of level 3. But that would have been an easier way to do it. And then you can just say that you spend more Draugr die to upcast Find Steed, and then that causes it to scale up. That's an easy way to make it scale without giving like a whole stat block and creating all these adjustments for it. I guess another way to do this would have just been said at different levels, it gains AC and hit points. That would have been another thing to do. Anyway, Graveguard. When you take damage, you can take a reaction to expend and roll a Draugr die. Reduce the damage you take by a number rolled plus your Constitution modifier. So the Psi Warrior has something similar. It's it's like a psionic shield kind of. I can't remember what it's called. But they can use it on anyone within 30 feet. So when anyone within 30 feet takes damage, they can do this and reduce the damage by one roll of their psionic energy die plus their intelligence modifier. This is for the Barrow Guard fighter only. So it only helps them. So that's not a support feature. This is a survival feature. Helps you survive, doesn't help you support anyone else. Then Soul Reaper. When you take the attack action, you can forgo one of your attacks to magically call forth ghostly hands around a creature within 60 feet of yourself. Expend and roll a Draugr die. The target must make a strength saving throw. On a failed save, it takes necrotic damage equal to the number rolled on the Draugr die plus your Constitution modifier, and it has the grappled condition. The DC is the same as your DC right here, which is based on your Constitution. For 1 minute, it can escape. So it doesn't say that it can't escape, but the fact that it talks about it's just grappled, and you can always just escape any grappled condition. So the creature can just escape. Now they'd have to spend some kind of action to escape, unless they have a special feature. On a successful save, it takes half as much damage only, and that damage again just at this level would be 1d6 plus 3 maybe. So not a lot of damage, probably a lot less damage than a weapon attack you would make. So that's actually net less damage. The advantage here is that they're grappled. Maybe they're going to make a strength saving throw. So the thing with strength saving throws when you impose them is that strength is tied to the creature size a lot more than any other ability score. So if they're bigger than medium, they probably have a good strength score. If they're smaller than medium, they probably do not have a good strength score. And if they are medium, it can be all over the place. But it is reasonable to ask the DM, how big and muscular does this creature look? So if they look big and muscular, they probably have a higher strength score. If they look, scrawny arms and they're wearing robes and got a funny green hat, pointy hat, they're probably a wizard, right? Probably low strength score. So only use this when you're pretty sure they have a low strength score. So I think this is, at level 3, this is going to be great. I think actually, this warhorse is going to do just fine at level 3. Soul Reaper, this is actually pretty good. It's going to be net less damage probably, but you're grappling them in position. So you could like charge in and then grapple one that's in the back row that doesn't have a good like range attack, and then you run up to the other ones that are already on the front lines or something like that, start attacking them. You've prevented that one that's kind of stuck in the back from being effective in combat this round, which can be quite good. Either they can't reach or they're spending their action to escape, right? Either way, it's a win. So that's decent. Then level 7, we have Siphoning Souls. You can capture the fleeing essence of departing souls to glean knowledge and prowess. You gain the following benefits. Mortal Coil. When an enemy that isn't a construct or undead within 30 feet of you dies, you can take a reaction to regain one expended Draugr die. That is so easy to activate that you're going to be regaining Draugr dice all the time. Now, the biggest limiter of it is that it takes your reaction. So this means you don't want to get something like Sentinel and Zentarum Tactics, or if you take those are going to conflict with this. And then you're going to recover fewer Draugr die. I don't know. That's not much of a limiter, and this is very powerful. Now, you're still limited by the maximum number of Draugr die you can have, so you can't go over your maximum because you just regain some, but that's okay. Use them as fast as you want and regain them as fast as you want. So this is a little bit too easy. Even if they reduce it to just say 10 feet, that might rein it in a little, but that's not going to be a big deal. You're a fighter. You probably want to be on the front line anyway. And then their other feature at level 7 is Whisper of the Departed. When you make an ability check, you can expend and roll a Draugr die and add the number rolled to the total. So 2 things. One, this is actually kind of weak in a way because you have to decide if you're going to use the Draugr die when you make the ability check, not if you fail. So technically, it's before you have any idea of the result, and it's technically, like at the same instant you roll. So you're not really supposed to roll and see what the result was, and then decide if you're going to use a Draugr die. It says when you make it. I don't know. Ask your DM on how they rule that. Are they going to limit it and say, well, you got to decide before you roll or after you roll? It definitely should be, at the very least, after you roll, but before you know the outcome. Like, did you make it or not? Uh, so that may or may not limit this thing. And then also the fighter has tactical mind, which allows them to expend second wind to roll a d10 whenever they fail an ability check, and they can add that d10, possibly turning it into a success. So between these two, you're potentially adding, you're level 7, so that means you're going to have d8s. So you could be adding a d8 and a d10 to any ability check. There's no limit on what ability checks they are. It's just literally any ability check. So the average of those would be 10. 4.5 plus 5.5 is 10. So if you add both of those, you're going to increase, on average, your ability check by 10. You can't do that all day long outside of combat, but yeah. And you regain one of each of these dice when you finish a short rest. So you've got quite a few of these resources, and you could be boosting any ability check. It's actually pretty strong. It makes you potentially really good at basically everything outside of combat. Yeah, you could be a great scout. You could be great at face. You could be great as the knowledge guy, because you don't even have to be proficient. Just make the ability check. Moving on to level 10, we have Tomb Castellan. It's one or the other. The powers of your Death Knight feature improve in the following ways. Phantom Charger. The ghostly steed of your Dark Rider power now ignores difficult terrain. Additionally, when your steed takes the dash, disengage, or dodge action, you can expend and roll a Draugr die. Your steed magically teleports with you, if you're riding it, to an unoccupied space you can see within 60 feet of the steed. Each creature of your choice within 10 feet of the steed, when it appears, must succeed on a Constitution saving throw, taking necrotic damage equal to the number rolled on the Draugr die plus your Constitution modifier on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. So this is an interesting feature. The difficult terrain probably doesn't matter very much. Like your warhorse has a very high movement speed, plus it can just take the dash action to double that, and now you're going to teleport for an extra 60. Now it ignores difficult terrain all the time, and the teleport costs you a Draugr die to use. Anyway, so it's probably going to be very rare that the difficult terrain matters, but cool little ribbon feature. The teleport is cool, not only for an additional just distance, but the fact that you can teleport up to other locations that you couldn't otherwise normally reach, like up on a cliff or down to a lower elevation. And then it causes damage in an AoE, which is cool. And the AoE is creatures of your choice, so no friendly fire, which is always great and important. The damage is so-so, and they still get a saving throw versus it. So it's not like I don't think I would be expending Draugr die just for this damage, unless you're just at max and not worried about it. Then you just burn several of them, just do some extra damage, and then you start regaining them when they die. Yeah, that would be a valid tactic. Death Knell. When you use your Graveguard power in response to a creature damaging you, the creature takes psychic damage equal to half the amount of damage the power reduced. That's good. All right, I like that. Spectral Shrieking. When a creature grappled by your Soul Reaper power starts its turn, it takes psychic damage equal to your proficiency bonus. When it does, you can take a reaction to expend and roll a Draugr die, adding the number rolled to the damage. So I do like subclass design where you basically get all of your features right away at level 3, like all of the core mechanics of your subclass, right? You've got all these core mechanics. They're going to define what you're going to be good at as a subclass, and then every subclass level enhances those. Instead of just giving you a plethora of more additional features, it enhances those to make them more and more significant, but keeping in the same mechanical theme. And they've done that well with this one, which means it's not, one of the problems with giving a lot more new features at every single level is it increases the complexity of the creature, of the character, and then players struggle with decisions during combat, especially at high level, where you've got now, you might have dozens and dozens of features, and then you've got dozen feats, and then you've got all these things going on, and player turns take forever at high level. So and that's the problem, and that's the reason for it, is too many features they have to keep track of. So I like this design where you have fewer features, right? They're not giving you new things to do with each of these levels. They're just making the things you already got that you could do at level 3 better and more worthwhile, so they keep up. So that damage on Spectral Shrieking is okay. I probably wouldn't expend a Draugr die on adding to the damage, because you might just roll a 1 anyway and then you expend the die. But similar to the Phantom Charger, if you're at max Draugr die and you just want to start dishing out more damage, go ahead, start burning your Draugr die faster, because if you just kill them faster, you're going to get them back, right? In a situation where there's a lot of minions, I would use Phantom Charger all the time, both because you're going to be killing those minions faster, right? Because minions tend to not have very many hit points. And if you can just be wrecking groups of minions with your Phantom Charger or AoE, great. And every time one of them dies, reaction, get your Draugr die back, and then just do it again the next round. So you stay at net zero Draugr die if there's a bunch of minions. If there aren't a bunch of minions, I don't think I'd be wasting Draugr die on just trying to get AoE damage from Phantom Charger, because you'll burn through them and not get them back nearly as fast. But the proficiency bonus psychic damage from Spectral Shrieking, a lot of the time, so you're going to be level 10, that'll be 4 damage guaranteed, right? And there's no save, so it's just 4 psychic damage. And you could roll a die, and at level 10, your die size is still D8. Yeah, still D8, which is 4.5 on average. So the proficiency bonus damage is, on average, almost the same as what you might get from this Draugr die. So rolling the Draugr die, on average, is going to double the damage, and it's not a very high damage to be doubling. So it's not like you're doubling 50 damage, you're doubling 4 damage. Yeah, probably not worth it. Then level 15, Grave Lord. You are no longer a mere vessel for spectral energy, but a lord of it. Your powers improve in the following ways. On a pale horse. I like that reference. When you use your Dark Rider power, you can allow one creature of your choice to mount the steed in addition to you. So I guess both of you are riding it now. Additionally, when you expend a Draugr die during the steed's dash action, it can move through solid objects and creatures as if they were difficult terrain, along with any riders. So that's you and potentially the other rider. If the steed ends its turn inside solid objects, it takes 1d10 force damage and are shunted. As per usual, Spectral Shield. When you use your Graveguard power, choose one of the triggering damage types. So if they deal, slashing damage to you, you have resistance to that damage type, including the triggering damage, until the start of your next turn. So if they deal slashing damage to you, and you use your Graveguard power, not only are you reducing the damage, but you're now resistant to the triggering damage of that attack, plus slashing damage until the start of your next turn. So that's a good reaction too. This one's got 2 really strong built-in reactions. I probably wouldn't take Sentinel or Zentarm Tactics on this one. You're gonna have too much contention for your reaction. Death Grip, a creature grappled by your Soul Reaper power, has the restrain condition until the grapple ends. So that's a big upgrade. The restrain condition causes them to have disadvantage on all of their attack rolls, and all attack rolls against them have advantage, and they have disadvantage in all dexterity saving throws. I think it's just dexterity. It might be strength and dexterity. I think it's just dexterity. So yeah, that's really good. Now they can still just escape the grapple, but you want to be maxing out your Constitution modifier to max out the DC of their escape DC they have to meet. So that's good, and that's on top of them starting to take damage every round that they don't escape it. So you're really punishing them for not getting out of that grapple, and getting out of the grapple is going to take an action. So it strongly encourages them to waste an action, which is better anyway. So even if they have like range attacks and they're effective with range attacks, they're going to still want to get out of that grapple now, because they're taking damage and they're restrained. So they have disadvantage on the range attack rolls, even if somebody's not next to them. So this is good. This is good. Level 18, Might of the Necropolis. Your command of the secrets imparted to you is absolute. You gain the following benefits. Eternal Vigil. You no longer suffer the effects of aging. You can't be magically aged. You don't die of old age. In addition, you no longer require air, food, drink, or sleep. And there are no rules for this in 5e or 5.5e, so that's really just ribbon. Most of this is ribbon too. Like at this point, you're not really worried about food and drink. Sleep might come up. In certain situations in a campaign. Air is probably the most likely one to come up if you're getting suffocated, you're underwater, you're being held underwater, or somebody's using, like an enemy is using a dust of sneezing and choking against you. That's probably the most devastating use that this feature blocks, right? Because the dust of sneezing and choking immediately starts causing you to suffocate, right? But you're immune to suffocation because you don't need air. So you just hold your breath, you're good to go. Maybe it doesn't specific like suffocation is something that happens after you can't hold your breath anymore. I would check with your DM. Since it says you don't require air, I would say that you're immune to suffocation, but double check with your DM to see how they rule that. I think it would be strange to say, well, you don't need air, but somehow you still suffocate. Okay, Restless Dead. When you roll initiative, if you have fewer than 3 Draugr die, you regain expended dice until you have 3. I think initially this sounds pretty powerful. But the fact that since level 7, you can just get one back every time you kill a creature, not every time you kill a creature, every time any creature dies that isn't a construct or undead, right? So it could be your allies killing them within 30 feet. That's a big area. You probably don't have a problem with Draugr die. You probably have frankly, as many as you want. And so this may not trigger very often. It's probably going to be pretty rare. But maybe it'll trigger, and maybe this just encourages you to be like a crazy person. Just use your Phantom Charger to deal AoE damage on every single round. Use Spectral Shrieking on every single round of the creature that's grappled by it. And you can start grappling multiple creatures with this thing, right? There is no limitation on only one creature grappled by your Soul Reaper one at a time, right? So just start hitting every creature with this. And that means you could be triggering and using a Draugr die every turn, not just once per round, and to just be increasing that die and just burn and burn through your Draugr die as fast as you can. And then you get 3 back in the next start of the next fight. Now, starting a fight with 3 is not going to be very much. Anyway, I think the overall the capstone is kind of weak, but it's a weak capstone on top of a lot of strong abilities. And I think this is a strong subclass. It's ranking time. So this one's an A. Yep, gonna be an A overall. A for a dip too. Just getting that Warhorse is pretty solid. I'm gonna give it a C for range, C for blaster, and C for controller. Again, that doesn't mean it's bad at these things. It means it's adding a C's worth of that stuff on top of what you already are. And what you already are is your base class, plus any feats you've chosen, plus your background, plus yada yada yada, right? Your whole build. This is adding on top of that build. It's going to be an A for support, A for face, A for knowledge, and that's because of your level 7 feature Whisper of the Departed, where you can just increase an ability check, again, on top of what you can do as a fighter. Then it's going to be an A for self buff. It's got a number of ways to self buff. An A for survival. You got a number of ways to reduce damage to yourself. Again, using your reaction mostly, and which is going to compete for your other reactions. And then a B for mobility. I would have given an A for mobility. I mean, this Warhorse is fast. It's teleporting. It's doing all these things. The only reason I didn't give it an A for mobility is this Warhorse is going to die easy. A single fireball might take it out. Yeah, it doesn't have a good dexterity score. It doesn't have enough hit points to survive it. And the average damage from a fireball, you're going to have a hard time buffing it through the standard strategies because it only lasts 1 hour. So that's the only reason I didn't give it a better score. But I mean, this is a solid subclass overall. You got a lot of things going on, and I think it's pretty good. I especially this is a little bit in some ways too strong, but it's very much non-combat functionality being added. The fighter is already really good in combat. They're pretty good outside of combat with the tactical mind feature. I think that's what it's called. And then this adds on top of that. So I like when we diversify things and give anything basically features outside of combat. Too often, I see builds that are just 100% combat focused and nothing else, and it's boring and it's one dimensional, and frankly, they struggle in a lot of situations, right? So I like this one. It's an A. Here it is in context with all the other classes and subclasses I've ranked from partners. So you can see how it kind of compares to other things. You can also, use this to filter. This Google Sheet is in the Google Drive that's linked in the video description, so you can get access to that. It's publicly accessible. You'll have to make a copy of it, I believe, in order to filter and sort, which is unfortunate, but it is what we have with Google Sheets. And you can see the Crooked Moon does pretty well, nothing below an A. They went a little too far with a few of these, but everything's at least an A. So they've done a good job. And between that and the art, this is an excellent, excellent book. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you don't have a D&D in your life, look in the video description. You can find a link to join my Discord or find me on Start Playing Games. If you are the kind of person who just is naturally prone and gravitates towards analyzing things and the mechanics of things and comparing them and contrasting them, I would love your input on these ratings. I definitely don't get them all right all the time. I don't think any one person ever could. And the more people that get involved, the better these ratings become. And this is a community resource I'm trying to build. This is not an ego trip. So if you have thoughts on things that I should change, I would love to hear them. Either put it in the comments for this video if you think some of the ratings for this subclass need to be changed. If you have thoughts on other things that I've ranked, probably easier just join my Discord. I've got a channel there dedicated to discussing ratings of things as we adjust things. And, it seems like almost every day, I don't know if it's almost every day, a few times a week, we're debating and adjusting, one or more ratings of different things in the game. So yeah, get involved. I would love it. Thanks for the help. Remember that D&D is a game, and the only point of it is to have fun with your friends. All right. So please be cool when you play D&D. All right. Okay. Catch you next time.